Hi everybody. I'm making a video today about my experiences renting a OneWheel. I rented this yesterday from eCarve in New Richey, Florida, and yesterday was the first day I had ridden this thing. I really want to thank the staff there, Scott and Autumn, for explaining what this thing was, and especially Autumn, like kind of helping me get on the board without killing myself. And so what you're going to see here is day two. I've ridden this thing maybe 10 to 15 miles at this point, and it's starting to feel a whole lot more comfortable. Just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from, I've done a lot of snowboarding in the past, specifically alpine snowboarding with the plastic boots and the metal bindings. These things really are made to carve, and as you can see from this picture in 2009, we're talking, big edge angles, extreme lean. You can get your hips on the snow, both toe side and heel side. And I was kind of looking for something like that in Florida because now that I live down here, thinking my snowboard opportunities might be a little bit more limited than they were where I lived before. But the board is actually nothing like an alpine snowboard. This thing is extremely responsive, and instead of like great big huge angles, you're really making subtle movements to get this thing to turn. The going faster and slower is super, super intuitive. You push towards the front of the board, towards the nose, and the thing goes faster. And then you push towards the tail, kind of rock back, and the thing goes slower. And just nothing could be easier than that. Right and left is just a matter of just a little bit of pressure one way or the other, and the board will come right around. So easy to ride once you get going, intuitive. You don't have to hold on to a throttle like you do with the electric skateboards, and you don't have to hold on to the handles like you do with the electric scooters, which is pretty cool. The thing is extremely maneuverable. I mean, you can be on a sidewalk and turn around. You can get your mail, from the thing. You can walk your dog, whatever. It's a very nimble little board, and it's a lot of fun to ride for sure. The the wheel is a big, wide pneumatic tire, so that air-filled tire is going to really absorb a lot of irregularities, and it's no problem to just take off into the grass with this thing. Little bumps and cracks in the pavement, you just really barely feel those things. It kind of feels like you can sort of motor over just about anything with this board. So that is really confidence inspiring because skateboarding, like back when I was a kid, was like, you're going along, but then like you hit this rock and then you like go flying, and who wants to do that when you're going along at 10 or 15 miles an hour? So this big cushy wheel that you're standing on is just very comfortable. um, the the thing that's kind of weird though is that like you're 100% dependent on the brain inside this thing to keep it upright. I mean, when you're going along at say 15 miles an hour, it's the board that is staying underneath you. It's not you balancing on the board. It's like the computer is determining, how fast or slow to go to stay underneath you. And so it does require some trust in the technology. And I mean, like, I don't want to be like, I'm an old guy, but like, I do live here in the villages, and I am like, something over 50. So the, these things, I'm like, gosh, if this thing fritzed out right now and the nose of the board augured into the pavement, like, I would just be like a bloody, scuffed up, broken bone mess. So there's that. But I will say that like on day two, now that I've ridden the thing more, the fear of that actually happening is quickly going away. The Villages is kind of an interesting place to ride one of these things with all of the multi-use trails, walking trails, biking and golf car paths. I mean, there are a lot of places to run around. The entire area is set up to get around via golf car, and golf cart paths make great places to ride these types of things, like whether it's a one wheel or electric skateboard or scooter or whatever. I mean, these are really nice, and they're like perfectly smooth. So like I moved here from a place up north, kind of like suburbs place, and it was like, you know, there's no sidewalks, there's no shoulder, the speed limit's 45, but everybody's going like 60. I mean, it's like, you couldn't walk anywhere, you couldn't, use one of these things. It was scary to even ride your bike. I mean, it was just not conducive to this type of transportation. But down here, I mean, I mean, I could really see using this thing to cruise over to the mailbox or maybe get something from the grocery store or whatever. I mean, it really seems like it would be a very practical thing to use in this area. Now, the one problem with this area is like everybody's like, super old, right? I mean, like, uh, but other than that, it's like perfect. This area I'm coming up to now is called Etna's on the Green, and there's a couple of golf courses here, and a little area to get some food from one of the food trucks. There's a bar inside. There's live music every day, and this is just a really cool place to come and hang out. And when I got down here, it was like this is kind of like reminds me of sort of being in college, except like there's no classes and nobody's broke and everybody's old. Like I mean, those were the big differences. But people are just kind of chilling out, hanging out, getting ready to watch some live entertainment later today, and it just is really, really nice. So when this board, it's got a maximum top speed, they say, of 19 miles an hour. But what happens is when you get close to that top speed, the nose of the board starts to tip up and give you a little bit of warning that like, hey, you're getting close. Because, when you think about it, like if you're leaning forward, the board's going faster and faster and trying to stay underneath you, but you keep pushing and it's going to hit a point where it can't go any faster. And then, your weight's forward, the wheel can't go any faster, and you just rock forward and tip that nose right into the ground. And then that abruptly stops, and then you auger into the pavement. So that pushback feeling, like it kind of depends. I think I can kind of feel it going into the wind at lower speeds, maybe because the wheel has to work a little bit harder to kind of push everything through the air. But you can sort of feel that nose kind of tip up, and like that is an important warning sign. Like don't push back that. And I think this might be one of these things, the difference between the XR, which I'm renting here, and then the Pint, the little one. The Pint is like half the price, and it's kind of more modern looking. I mean, it's a little smaller, but it doesn't go as fast. And I initially thought, well, who wants to go like 19 miles an hour on this thing? It looks just dangerous as hell, right? But after being on it for a while, like I just find myself feeling the pushback like a lot. And I am no thrill seeker when it comes to this. I mean, I've stepped off of stuff at 20 miles an hour into the pavement without wearing, any protective stuff, and it is just not pretty, especially when you get a little bit older. And, I'm a little bit of a taller rider, and I weigh almost 200 pounds, so like, you factor in, taller, older, heavier, 20 miles an hour, plastering himself into the pavement like that. Like I don't want any part of that. I mean, I don't know how much, like I cannot overemphasize how little I want to hit the pavement on this thing. And so that pushback is sort of like, that is a really nice feature to let you know that like, hey, you're kind of getting close to the limits of the board. You want to back off a little bit because if you keep pushing, then something bad's going to happen. And so just to kind of come full circle on this XR versus Pint thing, I think, you know, you may think that like the lower speed is going to be perfectly fine on the Pint, and now I can, spend some less money and whatever. But I'm not so sure. I think I'd like to maybe rent the Pint now too, and just kind of see if the speed is kind of a factor, because although I never dreamed I'd be like, oh, the Pint's just way too slow. Like it's possible the Pint might be too slow. So that's one thing. The other little quirky thing about this board is that I tend to get like some wobble when I'm doing longer radius turns. And this might be just like technique or practice or whatever, but especially on toe sides, it'll kind of want to turn a little bit tighter and then kind of mellow out a little bit. I'll kind of get this oscillation. And when you watch other videos online, like you'll see their feet kind of doing that. It's not a big deal, but it's not just like a smooth, continuous carved turn. It's like a turn with like a little wobble in it. Here I'm coming up past the softball facility here at Everglades Regional Rec Center, and like, I don't really play softball or whatever, but these are nice. I mean, super nice. This place has like big lap pool, big softball place, big soccer fields. It's got a remote control car track. It's got a lake for your remote control boat racing. It's got pickleball courts, shuffleboard, basketball. This place is pretty cool. So my rental board has a couple of little wheels on the nose of the board, and I didn't really know what these were for, but I found out if you really try and accelerate quickly, if you really wail on the front of the board, sometimes the front of the board will hit the ground, and those little wheels will allow it to slide forward and not stop abruptly. So you can sort of see in this picture here, you know, if you just really lay on that, the nose of the board hits the ground right there. And because there's a wheel there, you know, it doesn't throw me off. So I'm kind of thinking like that probably would be worth buying. Just thinking. Which leads me to stopping. Now this, I gotta tell you, uh, you're supposed to come to a stop, lift up your heel, push down on your toe, and then rock back onto the tail. And I've been trying to get this nailed down, but I am really struggling with stopping. Like here I'm going backwards, you know, it's like what the heck. This is where the pint has that just set it back on its tail and it stops technology, which I gotta say, that's kind of appealing too. So really not sure XR versus pint, but that's how it's supposed to go, just like that. Okay, so that's day 2 on the OneWheel XR, and I gotta say this thing's a lot of fun. I'm not sure, not totally positive it's gonna find a place in my garage, but the thing is cool and it's a lot of fun. If you ever have a chance to try one, I'd strongly recommend it. Hey, it's been fun, guys. Don't know when the next video is going to happen, but I sure hope you enjoyed this one. Have a great ride.